Shalom everyone, and welcome to Busisiwe, blessed in English, Baruch in Hebrew, which means increase, fruitfulness, and multiplication. I am Abigail. We're continuing with the End Time series, wherein we've been looking at the End Time sequence of events. We have covered 7 so far. The first one was the topic which we addressed, which was both the teachings as well as prophecies on the instruction that we are given that by Yahuah that the judgment will begin in his house before the world is judged. So that was the first one, that the judgment begins in the house of Yahuah. The second one was we then went through the times of distress. I've titled them End Time Sequence of Events, but you could also call them like milestone. What milestone will happen before Yahuah, Mashiak comes back, or before the old process or prophecies regarding the end times are fulfilled. So then the second one was the times of distress. The third one was the 3 days of darkness. Then the fourth one was the gathering, otherwise known as the second Exodus. The fifth one was the wilderness. And after doing the wilderness, we did the sixth one, which was the 2 witnesses, as well as the 144,000. We then went through the anti-Messiah, or the Antichrist reign, the time of the reign of the Antichrist. And now we're then doing the 8th event, or the 8th milestone, which is the first resurrection. Also remember that I mentioned that some of these events or steps or milestones are not necessarily linear, as in one will happen after the other, but some of them will happen simultaneously. As you could see that from the reading that we've gone through, that the wilderness is gonna happen for 3.5 years. Israel will be in the wilderness for 3.5 years, and what else? The reign of the Antichrist, or the anti-Messiah, he also is reigning for 3.5 years, and the 2 witnesses are also prophesying for 3.5 years. So as we go through this event, just also mind the fact that some of these steps or milestones are happening simultaneously or in parallel. Now, in looking at the first resurrection, other people know it as Rapture, or they call it Rapture. And we find this event regarding the first resurrection on the book of 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4, from verse 14 to 18, and it reads, "For if we believe that Yahuah died and rose again, so also Yahuah shall bring with him those who sleep in Yahuah. For this we say to you by the word of Aduni, that we, the living who are left over at the coming of Aduni, shall in no way go before those who are asleep. Because Aduni himself shall come down from heaven with a shout, with the voice of a chief messenger or a chief angel, and with the trumpet of Yahuah, and the dead in Mashiach shall rise first. Then we, the living who are left over, shall be caught up away together with him in the clouds to meet Aduni in the air, and so shall it be with him forever. So then encourage one another with these words." So it is important also to see that even as we're looking at this event, which is the first resurrection, that there is so much parallel, or going in parallel, or it's a mirror image, not necessarily parallel. The mirror image of these events, we see them in the appointed times, or in the appointed times of Yahuah, as found in the book of Leviticus chapter 23. If we look at the book of Leviticus chapter 23, you will see that this Leviticus 23, where it talks about the commemoration or the celebration of the the blowing of trumpets, otherwise known as Yom Teruah, or Yom Teruah in English, it just basically means that the day of shouts. So in Hebrew it's Yom Teruah, and then in English it is a day of shouts. And we find this in the book of Leviticus chapter 23 verse 24, and it says that on the first day of the 7th month we are to observe the day of shouts, or the day of shouting. Other version says the blowing of trumpets, and this is a Kodesh Mikra, or it is a set apart day, or it is a holiday. But what we see on 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, it's mirrored also in Leviticus chapter 23 verse 24, in that there is a shouting that is taking place, the blowing of trumpet that is taking place. Now, the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 14 to 18, it didn't give an indication as to when will this incident happen, but you can deduce from Leviticus 23, because Leviticus 23 tells us that on the first day of the 7th month, that's when we're supposed to have this celebration of blowing of trumpet, or the day of shouts, or the Yom Teruah. So more or less you can now have an expectation, because Yahuah operates in patterns, nothing new under the sun. What has been is what will be. That in most likelihood, this day of trumpets, this day of shouting is mentioned in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, where the dead in Mashiach shall be raised, and we who are alive will be caught up with them. In most likelihood, it will take place on the first day of the 7th month, based on what we've just read, on what happens on this day, or what Yahuah commanded us to do according to Leviticus 23 from verse 24. If we go to 1 Corinthians then chapter 15 verse 50, it says, "And this I say, brothers, that flesh and blood is unable to inherit the reign of Yahuah, neither does corruption inherit incorruption. See, I speak a secret to you. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet." So we're also now picking up a sound of a trumpet mentioned in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 15. It says, "For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." So we who are alive when Yahushua Mashiach come back, we shall be changed. We shall be transformed in a twinkling of an eye, that so as he is, so shall we be. So we'll also have the glorified bodies as he has a glorified body. And I like what Shaul says. He's saying, "I'm telling you a secret. I speak a secret." So the secrets of Yahuah are hidden in his word, are hidden in his appointed times, that it takes us who are walking in the Ruach HaKodesh, or in the Spirit, that he will then reveal this truth to us. Just like Yahushua HaMashiach, when he was teaching, he will speak to people in parables, but when he was with his disciples, he will speak plainly. So certain of the things, they could be sounding like parables to other people, but he reveals the truth and the clarity of such information to those who seek him, because he says in his word, Yahuah says that I am a rewarder of those who diligently seek me. The other part that needs to also be corrected around the first resurrection is what people say, that when the first resurrection happened, which others they call it the rapture, or the rapture, they say that people will just vanish, like their clothes will just be on the floor, and there'll be chaos, because assume that obviously the pilot is in the sky, and then he is taken up into the cloud, or raptured, as a common term is used, or someone was driving a train or a bus or a car, and obviously there will be crashes that will take place and people will die. This is what is depicted in the movies that are broadcast obviously by America, which most of us have seen. Some of them are actually titled Left Behind. They give a wrong or an incorrect depiction, which is not according to the word. And why am I saying that it's not according to the word? If you read the book of Revelations chapter 1 verse 7, it reads, "See, he is coming with clouds, and every eye shall see him, even they who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth shall mourn because of him." Yes, they will. So already we are seeing here, the word tells us in Revelation chapter 1 verse 7 that every eye shall see him. So it is not true that people just disappear without anyone knowing where did the other people or where did the believers go. They will, every eye shall see him, even those who pierced him, every tribe, every tongue on earth, they will actually mourn when they see him. So very important to caution you, brothers and sisters, that in as much as we watch these faith-based movies, that it's not just enough to just ignorantly just believing everything that you watch. You need to watch it with the heart of discernment, with the understanding of the scriptures. What does the word say? Then you can be able to pick up that whatever they are depicting is not in line with the word. Another part that is very telling in the book that we've just read now, which is Revelation chapter 1 verse 7, where it was talking about that, see, he's coming with the clouds. What else did you see in the scripture, or do we see in the scripture where it talks about Yahuah being in the clouds? We see this in the book of Acts chapter 1 verse 9, and it reads, "And having said this, while they were looking on, he was taken up, and a cloud hid him from the sight. And as they were gazing into the sky as he went up, see, two men stood by them dressed in white, who also said, 'Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking up in the sky? The same Yahuah who was taken up from you into the sky shall come in the same way as you saw him go into the sky.'" So Yahuah HaMashiach was seen and witnessed by everyone for 40 days after his resurrection. And after 40 days, that's when they were in the Mount Olives, where he was taken up into the sky. How was he taken up? He was taken up in the cloud. What does 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 14 tells us? It tells us when he returned, he will return in the cloud. What does 1 Corinthians 15 verse 50 tells us? It also tells us that when the trumpet happened, the dead shall meet him. It's all talking about meeting him in the clouds. And these two angels, and it says, two men stood dressed in white. So these were the Malachim, or the angels, the two men. These two angels said to them, "The same Yahuah who was taken up to the sky this way shall again in the same way." So the same way that you are seeing him being taken up in the sky in the cloud, also when he comes back in the cloud, you will see him. Not only you as his disciple will see him, but everyone will see him. That's what Revelation chapter 1 verse 7. So it's very important to correct the error that is out there, that just people will just vanish and nobody will know where the people will go, or where the people have gone rather. And where else do we also see the people being also taken in the cloud? The two witnesses that are found in the book of Revelation chapter 11 verse 11, they are also taken in the cloud. So if you read Revelation 11 verse 11, it says, "And after 3.5 days, a breath of life from Yahuah entered into them, the two witnesses, and they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell on those who saw them. And they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." And they went up into heaven in a cloud. So you can see the pattern, how Yahuah operates, and the same scripture continues to say that as they went up in the cloud, their enemies saw them. And just like Revelations 1 chapter 7 also told us that everyone, even those that pierce Yahushua HaMashiach, will see him when he returns. So this is a reality that when it comes to Yahushua, he's not some mysterious, or even Yahuah himself, he's not just some mysterious creator that you can never know what is about to do. There is no mystery. You can see in the pattern how he operates, and he always reveals the things to his servants, not only through prophecies or through dreams. It's written in his word. It's just hidden in hindsight, that you cannot say that, oh, no man knows the day and the hour. But if you follow this, what we've just seen now is that you might not know, yes, the exact day and the exact hour, but the season, we are more or less can be able to tell the season if you follow the appointed times of Yahuah. As I said, we find more clarity in that. This is where then we'll end the first resurrection, and then we'll then continue with the other events which are part of the end times sequence of events. Shalom.